Leo lives in a world of magic and fantasy, which is filled with demons and knights. He was selected as one of the heroes for the kingdom and was recruited to fight against the Demon King's army with other heroes. In no time, he became the best knight the kingdom had ever seen and mastered the art of swordsmanship. He was so incredibly strong that the entire demon army was scared of him, but he was pissed off at his teammates who always dragged him down instead of helping him. Like the archer who couldn't do anything once anyone got close to him, or the swordsman who was bad at the one weapon he had, and the mage who only knew how to cast healing magic, forcing Leo to save all of them time and time again. One day, finally, he had enough and straight up ditched his entire party. He started by categorically destroying small platoons of the Demon King army single-handedly, and finally he reached a point where the Demon King Echidna herself sent her elite fours to hunt Leo down. The fat guy whom I am going to call Brute was the first one who was encountered by Leo. Leo would have been unable to defeat him if it was just a sword fight, but thanks to his magical prowess, he was easily able to defeat the Brute as he didn't know how to deal with anything apart from full-on frontal fights. The next battle he had was with a woman assassin in the Elite Four, who looked like an emo girl but was incredibly fast and stealthy. But all the while he wasn't defending himself as he was chanting an incantation. He ends up using the spell and completely destroying the entire area with his magic, defeating her as well. He was scolded a lot by the townsmen for destroying one of their most valuable heritage sites. The third person he had to fight was a little girl named Lily. Her incident was very funny, as on the way to find the hero, she ended up losing her memory, and she met Leo when both of them were trying to escape rain beneath a tree. Leo wasn't able to leave a little girl alone in the woods, so he ended up taking her with him to the next few cities and taking care of her. One day she ended up falling face first and her memories returned to her. She immediately tried to attack Leo, but he was very easily able to defeat her, after which she fell in love with him. The final member of the Elite Four was the powerful mage with the Futina. They met on the battlefield, and she was reciting her incantations, but Leo ended up using a total nullifying magic barrier around them, rendering her magic completely useless and forcing her to fight Leo physically, which went as well as you can imagine for her, as she was super weak physically. The final enemy was the Demon King Echidna herself, and she was a tough cookie. She transformed into a giant monster, and took a whole lot of effort for Leo to finally defeat her, but he refused to kill her because he knew that she was not a bad person, because while the invasion was going on, he saw her stopping her forces from causing unnecessary bloodshed and keeping death and destruction to a minimum and done only when necessary. After literally destroying the entire demon army all by himself, he went back to the kingdom, hoping for a really warm welcome, accompanied by applause and cheers, but all he met was coldness towards him. People were scared of him when they got to know that he destroyed the entire Demon King army all by himself. Men and women ran away as soon as they saw him, as they were afraid that the power would go to Leo's head and he would become the next Demon King. Finally, he was summoned by the king inside the court, where the king finally acknowledged that Leo had helped them immensely by defeating the Demon King's army with a minimum of casualties from their side. But he claims that he cannot simply ignore the needs and wants of his subjects and tells Leo to leave the kingdom by the first light of the morning. Leo simply looks at the king with an empty gaze, replies that he will leave immediately, and walks outside, stripping his armor and donning a robe. He started living as a homeless person despite being the strongest person to ever exist, and slowly started getting resentful towards the people of this kingdom. One day, he overheard a bunch of people talking about how the Demon King Echidna is trying to recreate her army. Leo finally thinks about it and decides that he wants to join the demon army. He starts traveling through the mountains and deserts alike while preparing a presentation to show Echidna and the 4 elite generals. Finally, he arrives at the court of the Demon King and walks up to them before taking off his robe and revealing who he was. Echidna is shocked and asks him what he is doing here, but he quickly replies that he has no ill feelings and is here just to show her a presentation he has created. He starts talking and shows her a bunch of charts and graphs, talking about his past achievements, about who he has defeated, and about his combat and strategical experience, before ending the presentation by saying that he also defeated Echidna all by himself. He feels pretty confident about how his presentation went and expects Echidna to accept him with open arms, but Echidna straight up burns him. He is shocked as Echidna tells him off, saying how could he ever think that she would let him join the army after what he did to her army, and he again takes out his chart and explains how. He will work hard to make up for her losses and that she will not find anyone better than him, but Echidna is in no mood to hear him out and starts shooting a bunch of fireballs at him. Before leaving the castle, however, he convinces the other 4 elite generals to have a conversation with him, and after many tries, he is able to convince the generals to give him a chance and let him help them take over the world. Finally, after having a conversation amongst themselves, they finally agree that they will give him a chance, but tell him to lay low and not let Echidna know about this whole ordeal, and he agrees. Leo sleeps over in the castle, and the next day he meets up with Futina. She seems to be pretty overworked, as ever since Leo destroyed their army, she has had to deal with everything of substance. Leo asks for the list of the tasks that she is responsible for, and Futina hands over the long and exhaustive list of several time-consuming tasks that she is responsible for. Even he is surprised at how much she has to do all on her own and asks her why she doesn't distribute the work to other people, but she replies that most of the work can only be done by her, and even if she gives it to other people, they don't trust them to do a perfect job and will end up keeping an eye on them constantly, leading to only extra work. He selects one of the jobs, which is filling the mana reserves of the castle. Futina explains that only she can fill up the reserves because the frequency of her magic has been fed to them for a long time. Leo simply smirks and tells her that he will simply mask his magic wavelength from hers and then fill the entire thing up. She looks at him, realizes that he is skilled enough to do it, and tells him to go ahead with it. He looks at her and tells her that it will take 2.5 hours to complete the entire job, but she tells him that even she can do it well within 1 hour. So why is he taking such a long time? But he tells her to just trust him, and he changes into a black armorer and names himself Onyx, so that other people don't know who he is. He goes downstairs, and within half an hour, he comes back upstairs and tells her that the job is done. She looks surprised but tells him that if his work is finished, he can start with the other jobs, but he tells her that he's going to take a break as his mana is depleted and simply lies down on the couch after releasing a magic eye, which lets him see whatever the magic eye sees. He tells her that he will rest for a bit and watch her work, and she tells him to do as he pleases, but to do it quickly so that they can get some more work done. Half an hour passes and he is still lying on his chair, not moving. Futina looks up at him and asks him whether he has rested enough, but he tells her that he is still tired and wants to rest some more. She looks at him disapprovingly but doesn't say anything and gets back to work. But after 1 hour has passed, she walks up to him again and tells him that he should start doing some work, to which he replies again that his back is aching and he feels very tired. Futina tries to lift him up, but he uses gravity magic to make himself heavier, and she returns back to her seat in a huff. Finally, after 2 complete hours, Futina has had enough and tells Leo to get to work, but Leo tells her that he wants to rest just some more. But this time, she gets extremely angry and summons her staff, telling Leo that she went against Echidna's wishes to grant him a chance at redemption, and this is how he is paying her back. Leo gets up, scared as she is, and tries to talk her down, but she is not willing to listen to him anymore. Before she could attack, however, someone knocks at the door, and a white-haired girl enters the room, telling Leo that she had finished replenishing the mana reserves. Futina looks extremely confused and asks what the hell is going on. Leo looks at her and explains that when he went out for 30 minutes, he went over to the blacksmith's area where he got a very strong amethyst crystal and designed it into the shape of a pendant while filling it with mana, which is of the same wavelength as her. He then gave the pendant to the girl in question, who then proceeded to fill up the mana reserves using her own magic, but due to the pendant, the wavelength became the same as hers. He tells her that now she won't have to deal with filling reserves ever again, as it will be taken care of by the white-haired girl and her friends, whom he will also give the pendants, along with some extras. The white-haired girl leaves the room, and then Leo turns towards Futina and tells her that apart from that, while he was laying down, he was also keeping an eye on all of her work, and he has prepared a new work plan that uses that data to mark the work that can only be done by her and the work that can be done by other people as well. Futina seems to be overrun by emotions at this point, and her eyes get filled with tears. She, however, quickly wipes them away and apologizes to him for how he was treating him and calling him a slacker, while he was actively trying to figure out ways to make her job easier. Later that night, Futina calls Leo to her chambers, where she sits with him and discusses the bad situation the Demon King's army is in. She tells him that they are running very low on food and other supplies, and the following day, Lily is going to Largo to handle all the logistics for the supplies. She tells him that these supplies are very important and must reach the castle in time. Leo asks her what the problem is, and she just hands over a report that was made by Lily after the completion of her task. The report was a bunch of gibberish crayon drawings, and Futina explains that all of her reports and plans have been like this, which results in miscommunication and pointless delays. She wants Leo to leave for Largo, alongside Lily, so he can monitor her and make sure she learns to handle things smoothly and efficiently. Futina explains that 3,000 years ago, a demon king led an attack on humans but lost the battle. Later, most of the demons found peace with the humans and started living together, but it wasn't the same for the dragon folk of Longos when they tried it. For some reason, the humans were always against the dragon folk and heavily discriminated against them. This forced the dragon folk to shift their entire population to a deserted island called Largo. According to Futina, these dragon folk are the only people who were helping the Demon King army when they were suffering losses, and they are the only reason that the demon army is being rebuilt. Leo looks at her and asks, why doesn't she send the brute then? She tells him that she was planning to send the brute, but then she realized that if he goes, he will do all of the work and Lily will learn nothing. Leo agrees with this reasoning and tells her that he will go with Lily. The following day, Lily and Leo both leave the kingdom to reach the mythic island of Longos, alongside hundreds of demons and beast people to help them transport all of the supplies. They arrive at the island, but Leo is completely overwhelmed by how disorganized everything is. Lily simply makes a game out of everything and even races through the cities to see who can reach the transporter with the supplies the fastest. Leo chases after her, asking her to stop, as while running through the city, she destroys a bunch of things and might make enemies of even the dragon folk. Leo finally catches up with her at the transporter and asks her to stop playing around and get to work. Lily, however, tells him that she is working and tells the demons to quickly put the supplies through the transporter and then to take a break after lunch. Leo is bewildered that only after one supply run is she telling them to rest, but Lily is the general here, so he can't say anything. He looks around the island and thinks about how inefficient everything is here. Demons who are strong and demons who are weak are all given the same job of carrying heavy loads, and there is no division of labor. He plans on how they can quickly make it all work efficiently by just dividing the work according to who is best suited for which work. Leo looks around and spots that the maintenance hasn't been done in quite a long time, so he asks one of the demons to work on it, but the demon plainly tells him to go away as he only listens to the order of her general, and Leo goes back to his tent with his head in his hand, trying to think of a way to teach Lily how to deal with such situations. He also had to deal with the people of Longos because of the aftermath of Lily's race, and if this keeps on, he thinks that the dragon people will pull their support from the demon army, and that would be the end of it. While he was sitting there, Lily walked in and immediately got concerned for him, asking him if he was okay. When Leo said he was not, she tried to make him lay down and then ran outside to find some medicine for him, even trying to trade her carrots with anyone for the medicine. Leo thinks about how sweet of a child she is. Then it suddenly strikes him, and he realizes how he can make her mature faster. By the time she comes back to the tent with the medicine, Leo has lied down on the bed and is looking very sick. She immediately becomes concerned and asks if he's okay. He tells her that a very venomous snake just bit him, and there is no one in this entire area who can heal him. In reality, he was the one who summoned this snake, and he is the one who can easily break the effects of the venom whenever he wants. He tells Lily that the only way to save him now is to get a special blend of herbs, which is found on the eastern end of this island. Lily immediately gets to it and runs outside. Leo gets up and breaks the effective venom from himself before sending his magic eye after her. In reality, he has set a bunch of obstacles on the way for Lily to encounter, and Lily would need the help of her demon comrades to quickly get through the obstacles and get the herbs to save Leo's life. She runs through the meadows and converts into a giant divine wolf, which increases her speed and strength. Leo remarks that only Lily can do that from her entire clan, and no one else has ever seen anyone do anything like that before. After running for a while, she finally reaches her first obstacle, which is a giant rock obstructing her pathway. He has also cast invincibility magic on it. Lily runs up to the rock and starts attacking it, getting more and more frustrated because she can't even scratch it. Leo wants her to realize that she cannot break the stone by herself and to run to the nearest village where the spellcasters are stationed and can easily break the rock for her. But suddenly, to her surprise, the boulder starts cracking. Leo is shaken at this as he knows the invincibility curse is really strong, but Lily overcame it and started running ahead. Leo gets a hold of himself and thinks that there are still a bunch of obstacles left, and she cannot cross them without asking for help. She runs inside a cave and finds out that the entire cave is filled with slimes that are blocking the path. Leo makes use of a bunch of self-replicating slimes that only die when their core is destroyed, but Lily is a beast with demonic abilities, and she just runs into the slimes and tears them to shreds. Leo is dumbstruck by this and decides that he needs to intervene in between because Lily is too thick to understand what he is teaching her passively. He disguises himself as a wandering bard and goes after her. Lily finally reaches a cliffside, and there is a huge gap between the ground and the ground on the other side. But that's when Leo intervenes while disguising himself as a humble bard. He sings near her, and when she asks whether he knows any way of crossing the gap, he simply replies to her in a cryptic psalm that if there is any problem that you cannot seem to solve yourself, make use of the people around you to achieve your goal. But she suddenly told the bard that she now understands what she needs to do, and Leo seems to be happy. But before he could stop her, she simply jumped off the cliff into the river below and swam her way to the other side before climbing her way back up again. She thanks Leo and goes her own way. A very exhausted Leo decides to head back to the base camp as he thinks there is no way he can teach her something like this any better. He wakes up in the morning and finds out that Lily came back in the night, created a medicine from the herbs, and even fed it to him before putting him to bed. He thanks her and thinks that no matter what, she is one of the sweetest and most loyal people he knows. Just then, Lily produces a paper with a bunch of gibberish written with the help of a crayon. Leo takes a look at it and is shocked to see that she has created an entire plan about how to use everyone to the best of their abilities and has divided work amongst the demons to suit them. He asks her how she came up with this plan, and she simply replies that while she was trying to get the herbs, she met a very kind bard who told her something about making use of your friends and coworkers, and she suddenly had the idea of this. Leo feels really happy about it and thinks that maybe he was wrong all along and that she's way smarter than he thought she was. Maybe all she needed was someone to suggest that the division of labor might help. The supplies are all taken back to the castle, just in time without any further incidents, and he reports everything back to Futina. She is glad that everything went so smoothly and tells him that Echidna has urgently called him to her chambers immediately. Leo gets scared at the thought of going to Echidna's chambers, and as he is afraid, she will kick him out the moment she gets to know that he is Leo. He also knows that she is as skilled a fighter as the Brute and as skilled a magician as Futina, so deceiving her would be very difficult. But if he doesn't go instantly, she might think that he is trying to hide something. Even Futina is scared, as she is the one who granted him sanctuary without informing the queen. But Leo pulls his act together and tells her not to worry, as he will handle Echidna on her own. He changes back into his armor and leaves to meet Echidna in her chambers. He enters the room and is greeted by Echidna, who seems a little drunk but very happy. She exclaims that she really wanted to meet with the person who helped reduce the load on Futina's help and also help Lily learn how to work more efficiently, as this has increased the efficiency of her entire army altogether, and everyone seems to be happier than before. While having a conversation, however, suddenly Echidna asks Leo why he is wearing a helmet even while drinking and eating and tells him to remove it. Echidna, however, is drunk, and she walks over to him and starts taking it out. Leo immediately tries to change his face to someone else's, but because it all happened so fast, he was only able to think about changing his face into another human's face. This surprises Echidna, as she expected him to be a demon. She then goes back to her spot and they start drinking again. Leo wants to escape this situation as soon as possible, so he starts offering her more and more wine, hoping that she will get dead drunk and probably go to sleep soon. But it turns out that she's a real heavyweight, and after finishing all her glasses, she straight up grabs the bottle itself and starts drinking from it. They sit down at the table again and start eating and talking. She tells him that she will make sure he feels welcome, as any person is welcome in the demon army, as they don't discriminate against humans or demons. Leo thinks that this might be the time to get her thoughts on him, and he discreetly asks her. She said they don't discriminate, but he heard that the hero Leo wanted to join the army but was rejected, so would you let him join your army even though he's a human? The expression on Echidna's face changes immediately, and she starts fuming, talking about how trash the hero is and how she will never let him in her army no matter what he does. But she is still not letting him in because he will probably destroy the army from the inside out. She also says that he was the only reason she wasn't able to acquire the Philosopher's Stone, after which she could have ended her conquest. Leo was surprised by this new information, as he didn't know she was after the Philosopher's Stone, which is said to have unnatural powers like turning barren wasteland into a lush grassland, making dirty water clean, healing people's injuries, and even making you immortal. However, he believes that most of these rumors are completely bogus. He asks, why doesn't she just simply ask the humans for the Philosopher's Stone? But she replies that they wouldn't understand, as they are humans, who are mostly selfish. No matter how calmly she explains everything to them, they will still think that she is here to destroy them just because she is a demon queen. She tells him that the real world is unlike the stories that people read in their childhood, in which the hero and the demon queen make a pact and start living happily ever after. He asks why she wants the Philosopher's Stone, as she doesn't seem to be a vain person who would want immortality or money. They walk towards the balcony, and she tells him that the demon world is extremely unlivable. There is no sunlight, it reeks of death. The water is toxic, the land is barren, and even the air is poisonous. Apart from that, the demon clans continuously fight amongst themselves, causing violent bloodshed for no reason at all. She wants her people to settle on Earth, occupy the areas that are untrodden by human presence, and start living in this beautiful place where the sun shines brightly, the water is clear and sweet, and the air is pure. Leo is moved by her goals and decides that he cannot keep up the act anymore after she has completely opened her heart to him, and it will be extremely unkind if he keeps deceiving her even after all this. He turns towards her and tells her that he wants to tell her something, but before he could open his mouth, both Lily and Futina ran into her chambers and told her that both the Brute and the assassin had left their positions and disappeared after leaving a letter. Echidna is shell-shocked at this new development. She asks Futina to read the letters, and she tells Echidna that the assassin's letter says that she's going away on a journey and to not come and look for her, whereas the Brute's letter says that he has disappointed the queen by not being of much help and is going to seppuku himself. Leo quickly tells Echidna that he will go after the assassin and that they should rush after the Brute, and Echidna agrees, but when she tries to walk, she starts stumbling because of all the drinking. She, however, pulls out what we call a pro-gamer move and lets out fire from her mouth, sobering up again in the process. Leo quickly runs outside to chase the assassin and follows the faint trail of magic that he finds leading to the forest. While he was running, someone threw knives at him, but he was able to dodge them and back off. The assassin emerges from the woods and starts attacking Leo, but Leo is thankfully able to defend himself against her and quickly removes his armor to show that he is Leo. The assassin calms down and they sit down by a log. Leo asks him why he was trying to run away, but the assassin is completely quiet, saying that his letter mentioned not coming looking after him, but Leo still ignored it. And by the way, apparently this assassin is a guy. He asks him why he was trying to run away and whether he wants to leave the demon army, but the assassin replies that he doesn't. He tells Leo that the demon army is the only place where he felt welcomed, and people acknowledge his skills while telling him that they care about his feelings as well. He is just scared because in 3 days, he has to take interviews with a bunch of people who are applying for the jobs of spies, and he is extremely socially awkward and doesn't know how to talk. Leo looks at him trying to understand whether he was kidding or not, but realizes that the assassin is dead serious. He asks the assassin about his previous jobs and how he dealt with such situations before, as at one time he used to be guild master, and he replies that he always pushed someone else to do such jobs for him, but now there is no one who could do this job apart from him. So he thought that he would go on a journey and visit a bunch of different villages and talk to all the people there so that he could polish his communication skills. Leo tells him that a person from the Demon King army trying to talk to a bunch of human villagers is not really a good idea, and he tells him to come back with him, and that they can figure something out. Hearing this, he immediately tries to run away, but Leo expected this and has already tied him with the help of a magic chain, so he can't run away. The assassin, however, gets into his face and tells him that now that he has stalked him, it is Leo's responsibility to teach him how to become better at communicating within 3 days so that he is ready for the interviews. Leo comes back to the castle alongside the assassin, where he meets up with the girls. He asks about the situation with the brute and whether he is okay. Echidna replies that they were able to reach him in time as he was trying to seppuku himself with a bunch of swords, but the fool didn't know that dragon scale can't be pierced by any normal steel, so they were able to stop him. She also informs him that now they have put him under the observation of his daughter, who will make sure that he doesn't do anything stupid. Leo tells her that she should deal with the brute. Meanwhile, he will deal with the assassin's situation, and Echidna thanks him for being so helpful. He goes back to the assassin and hatches a plan to make him more socially aware. He gets a small part-time gig at the tavern inside the castle and becomes the waiter alongside the assassin, who of course becomes a waitress because he's a trap. They start serving people, and most of the time the assassin is merely following Leo around, who is doing most of the talking while he listens. He teaches him some of the techniques that might help him become a better talker. He tells him to always listen to what the speaker is saying, try to understand what he wants, and then talk according to that. Leo tells the assassin to go outside and take orders from the people sitting, and he goes ahead. Unfortunately, however, just then, an unruly group of wolf demons entered the establishment and started creating a bunch of noise, asking for the waiter. The assassin goes ahead and asks them what they want. The leader of the group very crudely replies meat and wine, to which the assassin asks what meat he would like before giving him a bunch of suggestions, but the leader doesn't listen to him and starts harassing him, thinking he can't do anything because he is a girl, but the assassin has had enough and gets him into an armbar, breaking his arm. He is immediately attacked by the leader's cronies, but he deals with them extremely easily and throws all of them out. After their shift has ended, they both head back to Leo's room, where Leo tells him that he did an excellent job handling this situation, and that he is getting really good at talking to people as he has stopped giving one-word answers to everything. This makes the assassin very happy, and he thanks him for the training. Leo, however, is not done with the training and tells the assassin to take a mock interview in which he is one of the applicants, as this way he will learn the fastest. The assassin asks what he could ask, and Leo replies anything he wants, and Leo replies yes, and the assassin wastes no time getting straight to the question, asking him the real reason for which he joined the Demon King's army. Leo was struck by this question as he did not expect it to suddenly spring up on him, so he tries to joke his way out of it, but the trap keeps pushing him for answers. He asks him why he doesn't have the same amount of hatred for humanity as he does. The trap was born half demon and half human, so he wasn't really accepted by the human community and was completely incarcerated. Later, he was bought by a giant organization of spies who used to use kids to assassinate targets, as if the kids even died in the process, it wouldn't really matter much because they were disposable. Thankfully, he was good at being an assassin, so he was able to survive all these years, but he started to hate humans more than anything else in this world, and when he heard about the Demon Queen Echidna waging war against the humans, he ended up secretly helping her. Once when she was laying siege to a big town, he ended up opening the main door of the town for her army to enter without any resistance. He expected her and her army to slaughter every man, woman, and child once they got inside, but surprisingly enough, Echidna made sure that the bloodshed was kept to a minimum and was able to arrest all the corrupt mayors and politicians, opening up their vaults and food reserves, and distributing them to the poor, starving people of the town. Automatically, the townsmen started respecting and liking the Demon Queen Echidna much more than their current rulers, to the point that they threw feasts for them and wished them luck on their journey henceforth. When the trap got to know this, he was very surprised and wanted to see for himself what this queen was like, so he ended up approaching Echidna, joined her, and very soon became one of her most trusted generals, leading an entire network of spies by himself. He, however, always hid his true intentions from her, which were the destruction of humankind at any cost. Everything was going smoothly until Leo came around and easily defeated him. He reminds Leo that when he defeated him and was walking away, he told Leo that he should kill him. Otherwise, he would make sure the entire humanity was exterminated, and even then, Leo simply turned around, saying that you should travel to different places and meet different people, as the world is not as bad as it seems to be. Leo is surprised, as this is the first time he has seen him talk so much, so he decides to open himself up as well. He tells the trap that once upon a time, the place where they currently live was known as Japan, and it was way more modern and technologically advanced than today. Suddenly one day, the ground split open and a huge number of demons and monsters erupted from the underworld. They also wanted the same thing, which was the warmth and purity of Earth, but they were not as willing to share it with humans. Slowly, it became an all-out war between humans and demons, but killing demons was not easy because humans at that time were just as weak as they are now. To combat this problem, they decided to put their brains to work and create demons of their own. These humans were modified and their skills were enhanced, but none of them survived apart from Leo himself. He became the sword of humanity and was only present to be the hero that humanity needed at the time. He saved humanity countless times from countless invaders, and as soon as the battle was over, he was completely forgotten. The trap looks at him and asks whether he doesn't feel resentful, especially this time because he gave up everything to save humanity and risked his life countless times to defeat the demon army, but all he got in return was hate and coldness. Leo looks at him and tells him that when they told him to leave the kingdom and never come back again, he felt alive and was happy, as now he had been ordered to quit harrowing. And now if humanity is under attack again, he doesn't need to be its hero, as he can simply do whatever he wants during that time. The trap is astonished at this story and asks Leo how long he has been defending humanity, and Leo replies that he stopped counting after 1,000 years, which shocks the trap. Leo replies that the mysterious sage that appeared 100 years ago and defeated the former demon king, who happened to be Echidna's dad, was only him. The trap is dumbstruck, decides that he has had enough for a day, and goes to sleep. The next day, Leo is called again by Echidna, who shows him a letter and tells him that the brute has decided to step down from his position as one of the generals of the army, as he feels like he is not fit to lead the troops. Recently, he had a battle against one of the strongest chimeras, and he tried to teach his troops how to handle a monster like that, but none of them had ever seen a chimera, let alone fought one, and they were terrified of it. The brute, however, is a brute at the end with no brains, and he starts chastising them about how they are not trying hard enough and how, when he was a child, he used to deal with such monsters. It sounds like my dad, who still hasn't returned home. I wonder what kind of milk he is buying. After this, however, he decided to step down as the general of their army and told the rest of his troops that he was now a common foot soldier as well, and the general was his daughter. Echidna asks Leo whether he could handle it, but decides to quickly change her mind as she thinks she is making him do a lot of things without consideration. But Leo tells her that he will deal with this problem by himself, and if he needs help, he will let her know. He goes to meet the brute's daughter and asks her about her father. She replies that the problem lies with his father, as he expects everyone to be just as strong as him, which is stupid and impossible to even consider. The demons in the army are of all different shapes and sizes, and some are better than others, but that doesn't mean that they are weak. Their strengths are just somewhere else, which her father refuses to understand, as he is a brute and only cares about raw strength. She tells him that her father needs to understand that he should not compare others with himself, as everyone is built differently and suited for something unique. And you should also focus more on strategy than a full frontal assault like a fool. Leo takes all the information in and decides on a plan. He takes her with him and reaches a cave, where he is able to uncover a giant mecha, which when the girl asked about it, he replies that it is a relic of the past, when humans were more technologically advanced. He then programs the mecha to appear near the ground where the brute was training with his soldiers and become invisible to witness their reaction. As planned, the mecha erupts from the forest and starts walking towards them. The troops are scared to their bones and want to run away, but the brute uses his strong voice to bring them back to their senses and tells them to attack the mecha. The troops listen to him and run towards the mecha, attacking it with their weapons, but shockingly, their weapons end up breaking on impact with the robot. They run back to the brute and tell him that they can't do anything, as they can't even attack it with weapons as they are breaking. He tells them to stay on the battlefield, as true soldiers never run back. The demons try to stand their ground, but suddenly, the mecha stops in its tracks. Leo gets confused, as he doesn't know why it did that. He started charging his laser beam and aimed it at the demons before releasing it. Leo was forced to create a magical barrier immediately to protect them all, as the beam was powerful enough to kill all of them at once. The mecha uses the laser again, but Leo is able to create a barrier again, deflecting the attack, but this time the demons all run away, leaving the brute alone on the battlefield, and the brute acts like a brute by running straight up to the mecha to try and fight it. The mecha takes out its laser sword to attack him, but Leo shouts at the brute to duck, and he is saved just in time. The mecha uses his laser beam once again, and the brute dodges but gets hurt a little bit on his shoulder. Leo tells the brute that he is going to guide him, and he has to do exactly as he says. He attacks the mecha and breaks its sword, and his daughter comes behind him, telling him to attack its torso, as that is where it has a lot of his basic components like wires and stuff. The brute heeds her advice and stabs it in the torso, incapacitating him, but suddenly, the mecha creates a weird sound, which Leah recognizes as the call for backup, and suddenly 3 more mechas from the caves emerge to try and reach the battlefield. But thankfully, Echidna suspected something like this to happen and had already arrived at the caves and decided to take the 3 mechas on her own. She absolutely smolders them with her flame magic and explodes them to bits and pieces, defeating them easily and solidifying her name as one of the strongest people in the kingdom. Leo explains to the brute that he needs to teach the men the basics, as otherwise he won't be able to do anything. Similar to the brute not knowing how to deal with the mecha, the troops don't know how to deal with the chimera, which they have never fought before, so he should be a little more concerned about teaching them the basics so they can follow his advice better. The brute recognizes his mistake and goes back to his troops, apologizing for how he treated them before and promising to be a better general moving forward. That's it for this video. Make sure to like and subscribe for part 2 and watch this next video on screen.